Hello again. This is Nicole Sharp. I am an advocate for domestic violence awareness, and I have been sharing my book, The End of November Growing Up with Domestic Violence, which can be found on Amazon. It's my memoir of my memories growing up with domestic violence. Domestic violence is a very pervasive social epidemic, and it was extremely pervasive in my life, being that my first memories as a child were of seeing violence in my home, unfortunately. And the end result was that my mother was eventually killed by my father. And so I wrote this book in order to help victims, to help survivors, and even help abusers to understand that there is help for everyone, and also to raise awareness about children who may not be direct victims of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, gender based violence, but who witness. They also are going through the trauma and the feelings that the abused parent is going through, unbeknownst to most people, because children stay silent. They don't know how to express themselves. And so I just want to raise awareness about that. We want to help our children who are seeing these scenes, horrific scenes in front of their eyes as kids. And that's not right, to grow up seeing that. And then it molds you as you become an adult. Unfortunately, some of us become victims ourselves of domestic violence, and some of us become abusers. And some of us try to work out in our lives why our lives may be chaotic, why we might not be making the right decisions in life. Therapy has worked a lot for me, and I think it would work for everyone if you just give it a chance. Seek out professionals who are trained to help you to talk through and to get through the hard memories. So let me just read our 13th chapter. We're up to chapter 13 of the book. And this chapter is one of the shorter ones. It's called Que Sera, Sera. You might remember that as the title of a song. I think the song is from the 60s by Doris Day and Sly and the Family Stone. They also did a rendition of it, and others. But you will see why this chapter is called Que Sera, Sera. Before we start, I just want to remind everyone, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and please share with others who you think that would benefit from watching this video and the host of videos that I have at this point, where I'm reading about my memoir, The End of November, Growing Up with Domestic Violence. Chapter 13, Que Sera, Sera. Once I remember my father yelling at the top of his lungs because my mom slightly burned a pot of rice. I sat in the living room as he began throwing insults and utensils at her in the kitchen. I was about 12 at this time, and I didn't move as I usually would to a place of temporary refuge. Since we moved into our new house 2 years earlier, I had not seen a fight. Not to say that they didn't happen, I just didn't see any, and I started to get used to living a normal, more peaceful life. So there I sat, frozen on the living room sofa. I wanted with all my heart to rush into the kitchen and stab my father repeatedly until he stopped hurting my mommy. I wanted to stop him by any means necessary, and at that moment I felt capable. But this frightened me, so I sat, frozen, so I wouldn't do it. I had to endure hearing my mother's head knock against hard objects and her grunts, as he was probably choking her as usual. Her will to fight back was bigger than usual, but she was no match for the depth of my father's fury. I sat there shaking, as I normally would, holding on to the edge of the sofa cushion so I wouldn't get up, walk into the kitchen, and do something I would regret. Tired, my father stopped beating my mommy and walked out of the kitchen as cool as can be, with this bogus confident strut that sickened me. I watched him walk straight out the front door. Now I could finally exhale. The trembling didn't stop though. Then I heard something from the kitchen, familiar sounds that filled the air. I felt so awkward going around my mother after she was beaten because of a mix of emotions. She always looked defeated afterwards, and I hated seeing her like that. I felt guilty because I always felt I should have done something to stop my father from hurting her. But as always, we pretended like nothing ever happened and went on with our regular business. I tiptoed to the kitchen, and there she was, washing the dishes as if nothing happened, and singing the tune she would usually sing after one of my father's blow ups. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. My mommy had a pretty soothing voice, and she would find herself singing and humming a tune all the time. If he was around, most likely he would yell at her to shut up, as he's done on many occasions before. She wouldn't shut up immediately, but with his persistence and threats to bash her face in, she would eventually stop. I found out some years later from childhood friends of my father's in Barbados that he would do the same thing to them when he was younger. If they sang, he would order them to shut up. If they didn't stop singing, he would beat them up. Why they continued being his friend even into adulthood is beyond me. But anyway, since he stepped out this time, my mother could freely sing like a house wren in mid-flight. I wondered if my mom was simply singing a tune or if she felt the words to the song. Was she really so crushed to nothing that she made the twisted resolve in her mind that this was her life and that was it? Whatever will be, will be. Oh, yeah. It's, to think about the contrast of my father, hearing sounds of my father punching my mother and her grunting and trying to fight back, and then, holding in the tears and the pain and then to start singing is really mind blowing, and I wonder if she was singing to keep herself from falling apart, if she was singing for me, to keep myself calm. I'm sorry, excuse me. And I wonder if she really did think that this was her resolve in life, that this is what her life was going to be. Because when you listen to the words of the song, I didn't make the song, but I just want to just play. I have no rights to this song. I think I have to say that before I actually play it, but let me see if I can find it. Oh, I lost it. But anyway, it's an upbeat song. You can look it up. And basically, it said, when I was a little girl, I asked my mom, what would I be? Will I be pretty? Will I be rich? And this is what she said to me. Que sera, sera. Whatever will be, will be. And then it goes on to the end when she says, she had children of her own, and then they would ask her the same thing and she would answer the same thing. So it makes me wonder if that's what my mother thought her life has turned into. Whatever dreams she may have had before, maybe she had to throw them away because of my father. And then her life was cut short at the age of 40 because of domestic violence, intimate partner violence, gender-based violence. This is it's a horrible thing that we have to experience still in this day and age in our modern times. To know that these type of caveman type of antics still occur and people still want to turn a blind eye to and act like it doesn't exist. There are people who are living in prisons in their homes. They're being tortured on a daily basis. Even when they try to go to work, they're being tortured and they're living in constant fear and dread of living. Some of them, many of them want to die, just die. As they feel like that's the only way that they can escape. And I don't think that in our modern times that such things should be happening here in America, in a first world country, or any part of the world. It happens everywhere. And like I mentioned before, domestic violence, gender-based violence, intimate partner violence has no face. A victim and an abuser can come from any social status. They can come from any race, any gender, any cultural background, speak any language. It's a social epidemic that needs to come to an end. And so that's why I'm an advocate for awareness, because I believe the more light you shine on it is the more that it will be exposed and weakened. And then also I create platforms in my community that people can feel free and feel fearless about talking about their experiences with domestic violence. And I believe talking about it destroys its strength, and that fear, it makes it dissipate. And essentially, it's going to be eradicated. And I believe so. And I'm going to do everything that I possibly can through the leadings of God to make sure that I play my part in bringing an end to this social epidemic of domestic violence. So I want to thank you for listening once again. And next week, we will be reading the chapter 14, which is the end of the first part of the book. It's called November 22nd. Thank you again, and don't forget to subscribe. Take care.